Artificial intelligence is reinventing the film and TV industries and reshaping the future of storytelling. I spoke to a longtime entertainment executive, consultant, and futurist, Ted Schilowitz.
Most recently, Schilowitz was the futurist in residence for Paramount Global. At 20th Century Fox, he was part of the creation of the Martian VR and Wild VR experiences. He also helped develop the Red One and Epic cameras, which many of the world's biggest movies are shot on. We spoke in Las Vegas at the Consumer Electronics Show, where Schilowitz spoke about AI's impact on cinematic creativity.
So, Ted, you've been around filmmaking for a long, long time, and that's not to say you're old.
Oh, I'm old. I self-admittedly old.
But AI, talk to me about how it's transforming the film industry.
Sure. AI in all of its forms, both inside and outside of the entertainment industry, is maybe the most dynamic and instrumental change that we have ever seen of all the various ports of the computer revolution, which is now arguably 75, 80 years old. We've been having sort of the modern concept of computers, silicon chips, and what they've done, right? So AI has tremendous capabilities, tremendous abilities, and tremendous risk and potential harm that are all sort of glommed together into this giant bubble that may or may not produce the outcome that humanity wants. There are optimists like me, or let's call them healthy optimists with a healthy dose of skepticism, that even with all the potential ethical challenges and risks, I still believe that humanity will find a way to harness it and benefit from AI in multiple ways across multiple industries. Not to say that there won't be issues and problems, because with every technology, there are always issues and problems, right? But they tend to work themselves into an edge case, and the mainstream case becomes the value point of new technology. And AI to me is no different than that.
China's film industry has generally embraced AI. It's already used in the production process, from script development to visual effects. Late last year, China's first animated film produced entirely through AI was released. The Reunion Journey follows two panda siblings exploring themes of family and cultural bonds. The film would have taken 3 to 5 years to produce, but AI cut that time to just 1 year. In Hollywood, the reception to AI is mixed, but in recent years, more studios are adopting AI to cut costs and enhance creative possibilities.
AI, when did you see it and say, it's coming, and it's like a train, and it's headed our way?
I've probably seen versions of what has now become very aware by the global population for about 10 plus years. The beginnings of how to synthesize things and how to use computer resources to create something that was much more difficult to create in the analog world. So there have been versions of, like, there's a crowd software called Massive that will take 50 people in a football stadium and duplicate that and fill the football stadium with 60,000 people. And it will actually like randomize their clothes and their hair and stuff so it doesn't look like the same 50 people. There are multiple tools from multiple companies that will do that, and I can do it at any level. The consumer level, the I only want to view it on my smartphone level, the TV level, or the giant movie theater, I need it in 4K as a giant, IMAX release. I can do any one of those for a fraction of the cost of filling the stadium, and even a fraction of the cost of using a software called Massive and 3D Max and other things. So the change is happening. It's accelerating really, really fast now. But I've been seeing this trend for a fairly good amount of time.
So you've been there for disruptions along the way, and there are always disruptions. And it's interesting, technology is one of those things, you can see it in the rearview mirror, it's kind of gaining on you. To me, AI seems like a tsunami that's in the rearview mirror, and it's really, in coming to CES the last few years, it's AI.
Now it's literally,
it's here.
Everywhere. I mean, there's an AI robot coffee maker, right?
Exactly. So talk to me about, how does Hollywood kind of harness this, but also adapt to it, And how is it doing it right now?
Sure. So I like to talk from a historical perspective and then sort of bring us into modern times. So what's interesting about the motion picture industry and another industry that we would call the magic industry, they have always had the ability to benefit and harness technology for a number of reasons, because these industries are challenged in many ways economically and creatively. So they're always looking for ways to do something better and cheaper and create the illusion, the magic of movies in a way that didn't cost as much as the old way to do it. So I was involved in a digital movie camera that was part of that understanding that we can start to remove some of the vestiges of what makes movie making so hard and complicated and expensive and bring it into what we call the digital age. So we could lower cost, increase quality, increase the ability to make more content, distribute more content. And that sort of lives across the board in the entertainment industry. Like, if we took 100 of the most known producers on planet Earth and put them all in a room and said, we're gonna find ways to help you make the hardest shots of your movie, not every shot in your movie, but all the things that cost you so much of your budget that you have to allocate to that motion picture that you don't have enough money to do the rest of this stuff right. So it's the big crowd scenes, it's the big VFX scenes, it's the monster scenes, it's the car explosions. If you took 100 producers and you said, instead of shooting your giant Civil War scene where you have to get 250 extras times 10 and move them all around and costume them and shoot them over multiple days, if we could do that with technology, if we could make that synthetic and it would look as good or better, which we're getting to the cusp of. I wouldn't argue that it's there yet, but we see the future. We see that it's heading this way. And we could allow you to create those 5 or 6 key scenes, and instead of spending 30 to 40% of your budget on 15 minutes of screen time, you can spend 2% of your budget on those 15 minutes of screen time and dedicate the money that you need for better actors, more time on set, more craftsmanship, more post-production, better VFX. Would you do it? And I would say probably 97 out of 100 would say yes. And 3 would be the old school guys that have the money and said, I actually want to do it organically, and it's important for me to do it non-synthetically, which is a completely valid and good choice and a responsible and valuable choice, but it's not for everybody. It's just for the tiny sliver that can afford it. So that's an interesting argument as to where technology benefits people. Like, we always sort of look at the inverse relationship of cost versus productivity, right? So if you could argue, and I keep changing my metrics, like a year ago, I would say that if you could make 10 times more content for 1/10 of the price, and that content was good and compelling, and it still delivered on all the creative aspects of what you wanted, would you do that? The answer is probably yes. These days, I think a few months ago I said, I think it's now at 100x. You can make 100x more content for 100x less cost. Today, I may have to rejigger my math and say, it may be 1,000 times more content for 1,000 times less cost.
A survey of 300 leaders in the U.S. entertainment industry predicted that AI would most immediately displace voice actors, sound editors, 3D modelers, and audio and video technicians. The tasks least likely to be affected were writing film, TV, or game scripts, as well as performing music or vocals. The study was conducted by the Concept Art Association and the Animation Guild.
I know you're the optimist, but let's get you back over here in the pessimist column. Because a lot of actors, and I think voice artists, are really nervous about what AI can do.
Sure.
We've heard a lot of complaints and concerns.
Yeah.
Is that legitimate? And how do you navigate that? I mean, how do you thread that needle?
So there has been an industry for many, many generations about dubbing movies into other languages for foreign distribution, American movies mostly, right? The biggest bulk of movies are made in the United States. So with the 200 and whatever plus countries around the planet, you need to have a version of that either with subtitles or dubbing. And a lot of people want not to read the movie. They would like, but the lips never match, right? And the actors are not the actual actor that plays that role. So with technology, with AI today, one of the things it's particularly good at is it can take an actor. Let's use 3 big actors. So Tom Cruise, Julia Roberts, and give me one more. Give me
Brad Pitt.
Brad Pitt. Okay, Tom Cruise, Julia Roberts, and Brad Pitt. So the three of them, if they choose to do so, can say, I would actually like my voice and my performance to be performed in every language this movie will be released in. I don't want to have the Italian version of Tom Cruise or the German version of Julia Roberts or the Chinese version of Brad Pitt to perform my performance. Now, the downside is you're taking jobs away from actors that have made their whole career. Like if you go to see a movie in Italy, a Tom Cruise movie, Mission Impossible, your whole life, you have heard the Italian version of Tom Cruise. There's an Italian actor that plays Tom Cruise. It's not Tom Cruise's voice. So if you grew up in Italy and you saw the Tom Cruise version, you'd be like, that's not Tom Cruise's voice. Doesn't make sense to you. But as we move forward now, we can use technology so that Tom Cruise can actually act in every language. And in addition to just resynthesizing his voice that sounds perfectly in every language with his actual Tom Cruise voice, they can resynthesize and remap the lips so that it's in perfect sync in every language. So if we go to see a movie in China, in Beijing, at the big cinema, and we see the Brad Pitt movie, we can watch his performance and the lips will be in perfect Chinese. So you won't have that issue of, oh, it's a bad dub job. So ultimately that's probably a net good, but there's a small cadre of people that made their careers and their life doing voice acting for these movies that no longer have that job. They'll probably find other jobs, but that job will go away. And we've already seen that. That's not in the future. This is happening right now.
Let's go back to your first story about, 97 out of 100 are going to say, yeah, I'll do that film. I don't need the Civil War piece. I'd rather do it with AI. But there are people who are like extras and stunt guys and all those people who are like, wait a minute, that's my livelihood. What do you say to them?
The thing about the entertainment industry that is an underlying tenet of an industry that is highly competitive and has what I call a brass ring phenomenon, meaning many try, few succeed, right? So well before AI, the amount of people that wanted to get into the entertainment industry and have a healthy, long career in the entertainment industry, a lot would try. They would go to film school, they would get internships, they would work on some movies, and most of them would fall off eventually because you just can't make enough money in it. You need a second job. Like, most actors don't make a living being an actor, right? It's a small percentage that actually make a viable living being an actor without having a second or third job. The people on the outside trying to be that next wave are always bigger than the amount of work that's available. You could argue because of phenomenons like YouTube and user-generated content and lowering the cost of content with low-cost digital cameras like this and using smartphones to make content, that we've opened up many more paths for many more people to make a living making content. But the truth of the matter is, let's use YouTube as an example. The amount of people that actually make a living making YouTube content is a tiny, tiny little fraction of the amount of people that post content on YouTube, right? So this has always been the phenomenon of the entertainment industry and many other industries that are highly, highly competitive and highly aspirational. So that's not a technology problem, that's just a humanity problem.
Last year, Dutch company Particle 6 debuted a photorealistic, AI-generated actress named Tilly Norwood. SAG-AFTRA, a labor union representing 160,000 media professionals, opposes the replacement of human actors with digital performers. According to a statement, the union said creativity should remain human-centered.
I was at an event in Southern California where they showed AI films, a collection of short films. And I remember talking to people afterwards, and some of them were like, wow, some of them knocked my socks off, but some of them just seem soulless.
Yes.
Is that what you're also hearing? And when do we get to the point where it's not so much soulless and it's knocking my socks off?
So that's a very relevant and important question. Yesterday at this talk that I was doing at CES, I was making the comment that where I see with what we're doing with AI in the entertainment fields today is I call it the vanilla effect. Everything sort of looks the same. It's got this sort of synthetic perfectness to it. It doesn't look organic. It tends to sort of duplicate the same things, and it is much more spectacle oriented than story oriented, which we actually can see traditionally over every change in technology. The spectacle of something new and amazing, the amazing visual, the amazing quality of what we can do, for a short period of time, overtakes telling really good, compelling, and intimate stories. But over time, The really good producers and really good directors learn how to harness the technology correctly to increase what they want to do, but make something that is with their voice, with their style. So I've seen both sides of the equation. I've seen what I call the vanilla effect, and I've seen now many examples of people that are really finding a way to do something different with AI. Like I saw a group of young filmmakers that created a whole bunch of organic looking shots, very imperfect in terms of like camera movement and style and focus, a whole reel of this stuff. And they went to the trouble to take the computer output and find a film lab that could actually print it to 16 millimeter film. And then they took that 16 millimeter film and scanned it back in digitally and then presented it digitally. So it had this really interesting organic, like the first time I watched it, I'm like, it looks like 16 millimeter film. Like I couldn't tell. And then they showed me their process and I could sometimes see a little bit of how they did it, but just the idea of like taking something that's so technologically advanced and then it's effectively dulling it down with something that's more comfortable to us as humans is kind of interesting. Like, you know, there's a resurgence of vinyl records, right? Like people, young kids go to like vinyl lounges to listen to music on vinyl. It's akin to that, right? You sort of want to use the technology benefits, but remove some of the vanilla effect, remove some of the, why is it just tech for tech's sake?
What you talked about, which I thought was interesting, is this merging of the past and the future, bringing it together so that it's palatable for all of us.
Yeah.
That soulless quality gone. Is that where you see a lot of interesting intrigue as we move forward?
I do. I think it's what's out on the edges that will make the AI conundrum interesting from a creative standpoint. It's not trying to make something that looks the same as what we made for the last 100 years. It's trying to make something that respects that, but explores the edges of that. Like, you know, we often talk, so I used to work at Paramount for a long time, and we often talk about the ultimate holy grail of entertainment is, can we make the holodeck a real thing? Like, is it possible to make this immersive entertainment, not wearing a headset or anything, but just like in a world where your brain thinks it's real and you are actually living inside a story? The closest thing we get to that today is theme parks, right? We can put you on this simulation experience for a short period of time, like the Avatar ride in Orlando is one of the most remarkable things you've ever seen. The Star Wars ride in Anaheim and Orlando are these remarkable experiences, but they're fairly short periods of time and you never really believe that you've gone someplace else. The question we ask with AI as an enabler is, can we take that next step?
Audience expectations and alerting them that they're watching something that's AI generated, any of that stuff. I mean, can you talk about kind of this landscape that we're in right now and what are some of the pratfalls you see? And
yeah, one of the startups, I do a lot of investing in startups and advising startups, and one of them is a company called Suremark Digital, which is founded by one of the creators of the blockchain. And he is working on a very sophisticated system to be able to auto-identify, is something synthetic or is it not? Is it a deep fake or is it real? It's very sophisticated, and I think there's a lot of need for this. I actually think there's a play that Sam Altman is doing, which will be a monetization part of OpenAI, where he will start to give you the ability to know what is synthetic and what is not. And it's important for us as humans to know, is it real or is it not? Here's the counter argument. In the motion picture industry, we have an expectation as we watch a movie. We know going into it, it's probably not real, right? Like they shoot stuff, they make stuff with computers. These days, the bulk of car explosions and car crashes in movies are actually generated synthetically because it's safer and you can control all the elements. You can make the car crash or the car explosion look exactly what you want with computers. It used to be quite expensive to do that with computers 20 years ago. These days with AI, we said we wanted to shoot an action scene here and we wanted to drive a Ferrari down this lane of CES and have it crash into a wall at the end and explode. A few years ago, I'd say, I can do that, here's the bill, and it would be 6 figures or more. Today, I can do a consumer version of that on my phone in 5 minutes or less, and I can do a professional version of that with someone that's really guiding it and making sure it looks like movie quality, that you would watch it and go, wow, they freaking drew a Ferrari through CES and blew it up against the wall, for probably less than $5,000. And really, some smart kids will do it for less than $100, right? So that's the change in the industry.
It's been a great pleasure. Thank you so much.
Absolutely great.